The conference Vision 2025.
This is a new game, a new time, a new opportunity.
If you believe in it strong enough, fuck them.
There is just so much noise.
So you have to keep adapting. Be passionate about what you do. It's okay to hit failure sometimes on that.
They don't care about you.
The market is crazy right now.
What goes on with tariffs is going to impact every single thing in the economy.
When we get these questions over and over again, and it's the same questions, right? What's happening with the interest rates? What's happening with the economy? What's happening with the tariffs? Well, instead of us answering that question over and over again, why don't we bring in the actual experts? Right. In this environment where there's so many questions going around, there's so much noise out there, especially when you look at social media and you look at TikTok, there's so much stuff going around.
And a lot of it is conflicting or confusing.
A lot of it is, right? A lot of it is, for the lack of better words, nonsense.
I think Matt's story really shows that by just thinking outside the box, and also, very importantly, persevering with an idea that you have and not being defeated if it doesn't work immediately. Like that's a really, really, really inspiring story, but one that you can actually take action on, I think.
When you're your client's champion and you're the expert that they're looking up to,
that they trust,
right?
Yeah.
You need to have all the facts straight, right? So you need to be constantly learning. There's a lot of white noise out there, right? Like we were talking about, all the stuff that's available on TikTok and social media, right?
Yeah.
But it's nonsense. The most successful agents, be it mortgage, be it real estate, are the ones that are creating that relationship. And it's a proper relationship. It's not transactional. It's not like,
right,
you're going to buy your house and then you're never going to hear from us. No, that's not how it works. You may have to work harder than you've ever worked before to make the same money that you did before, right? That's the reality. We know that. We're not shying away from that. But what we do know is if you're going to work hard, if you're going to be out there, if you're going to be hitting the pavement, right? If you're going to be, hitting the social medias, the door knocking, the phone calls, whatever it is that you choose to do, if you're going to do it consistently, and if you do it well, you will see results.
Omair, thank you very much for joining me.
John, thanks for having me.
Yeah, and so obviously the main topic of conversation, or at least where we'll start with, is the conference Vision 2025. What a crazy, crazy success that was, man.
What did you think?
Well, when you told me that the year before, you put it on just as kind of like thinking it would be a small event, and then it sold out, and then someone made the ridiculous suggestion of renting out the Ajax Convention Center, and you thought, well, it's kind of crazy, but let's see. And it's sold out. Yeah,
we weren't expecting it, to be honest with you, but you're right. A year before, we did a smaller, more intimate event with just, the agents that are very close to us, that work with us, and we did that at the Whitby Town Hall.
Right.
And to my surprise, on the day of the event, we ran out of seats, so we had to run around, the Whitby Town Hall looking for chairs that we could bring into the hall. Right. And, for this event, we didn't even have these massive speakers. Right. We had someone coming from CMHC. We had a representative from Mortgage Architects. And that was about it. We did a presentation, so it wasn't as robust as Vision, obviously, right? Vision was the natural evolution of that event.
Well, we want to really get into kind of reviewing Vision and the main takeaways from it. But before we do that, tell me a little bit more about the intention. Like, why did you have the idea, and why did you feel that it was something that real estate agents in Durham Region needed and were going to find valuable?
So, John, we work with realtors throughout the GTA, and most of our business, I would say, actually comes from realtors, right? And this isn't something new, right? This is over the past 15 years, we've built a portfolio out of working with, select realtors that partner with us. So when we partner with these agents, it's about providing some sort of value. You know, we can always, you know, go out for lunch and dinner and drinks, and that's great. But what about helping their business?
Right.
What about helping them really level up, right? Go to the next level. And in this environment where there's so many questions going around, you know, there's so much noise out there, especially, you know, when you look at social media and you look at TikTok, there's so much stuff going around.
And a lot of it is conflicting or confusing.
A lot of it is, right? A lot of it is, for the lack of better words, nonsense.
Right.
Right? And there's a lot of people that just don't understand the environment that we're in. So when there are questions like that, and when we get these questions over and over again, and it's the same questions, right? What's happening with the interest rates? What's happening with the economy? What's happening with the tariffs? Well, instead of us answering that question over and over again, why don't we bring in the actual experts? Right? Why don't we bring in an economist from one of the biggest banks in Canada? You know, why don't we bring in agents that have had success in these type of environments, in this type of market, right? That's obviously, I'm talking about the panel that we brought in, right?
Yeah.
Because one thing for sure, you know, no matter how challenging the market is, we're still going to see 60 to 70,000 transactions on TREB, right? So if there's still $60,000, $70,000, 60, 70,000 transactions that are happening, who's doing them?
Right.
Right? And if it's these key players that are doing these transactions, then they have a lot to teach.
Yeah. What are they actually doing?
What are they doing?
That is different from those who are maybe finding it difficult to succeed.
Precisely,
Yeah.
right? So when we started telling, you know, our close agents that we're thinking about doing this event where we will have, you know, an economist from the bank and you know, all the speakers that we were thinking about, we saw so much interest, especially because a lot of these conferences don't happen in Durham, right? You know, you've got the Buzz Conference in Mississauga or Toronto. You know, all these happen in the West End. Well, we don't have anything on this scale in Durham. So when we started talking to our partners, right? I'm talking about our lending partners, the big banks like BMO and Scotia and TD. Yeah, they were all on board. They said, "Hey guys, if you think that, you know, this is something that you guys can put together, we want to be part of it. We want to be involved." And that's amazing because these partners, obviously, they make our business go around.
Yeah.
And without them, there's no financing.
Yeah. And like you said, they are the ones that have not only the information, but the ability to interpret the information in a way that is practical. And I think that's one of the things that I found from the conference really stood out. There was a lot of talk about data, a lot of talk about you know, statistics and numbers and all of that stuff. But there seemed to be a real intention to take that and then apply it. Okay, so not only like what are the numbers, what is going on, but what can each realtor do in light of this information to actually have a chance of succeeding in their business. And I think that like the different speakers and the different perspectives that were brought was a really, really, really good mix. And so, you know, what was the feedback that you got from those who attended the event in terms of what they were able to gain from it?
I think one of the things that you have to keep in mind is no matter how challenging the environment, right? The most important economy that should matter to you is the economy between your own head, right? It is your attitude. It is how you adapt to change, right? And we're always evolving. The markets are always evolving, right? When I got into mortgage business back in 2008, John, it was insane how much we could do back then. There was no stress test.
Right.
Interest rates were maybe a little bit higher, but prices were a lot lower. We had 35-year amortization, right? We could do high ratio files with 5% down, and we could do it all the way up to 35 years with amortizations. We could refinance up to 95% loan to value. All these things are gone.
Right.
Right? We had programs where if you were self-employed, you didn't even have to share your tax information. You had to declare it on a piece of paper, and you could get financing. Right? Fast forward to today, none of these programs exist.
The game has changed.
Right? The game has changed, but still, we're able to consistently put our numbers on the board. We're still able to consistently fund. We're still able to consistently do business because we've evolved with the times, right? And I think that's what the conference was about, right? No matter if you feel that, the economy is different, or if you think that there's challenges in the economy, or if there's challenges in interest rates, so on and so forth, right? How can you take advantage of that? Where are the opportunities and what you have to do? So the feedback was overwhelmingly positive, right? And I think everyone really, really enjoyed, especially listening to the panel. I think the panel is, they're actionable items that were presented by top producers. And I think a lot of people appreciated that.
Yeah, things that they had actually done, not just, kind of theories or ideas or concepts. It was like, hey, when I was in this situation, when I was first starting out, when I was, kind of needing to grow my business, these are some of the things that I did. And I think there's no substitute for hearing it from someone who has actually done it. So yeah, I agree. The panel were fantastic. In terms of the other speakers, like let's just kind of get into a little bit about each one of those speakers and what they brought. So starting off the conference, Marianne, like she basically ran onto the stage with all of this energy, and I think that was a great way to begin.
It's amazing. Marianne Gillespie, I've watched her speak before, and every time it's like, you get a shot of B2 of motivation. Right. And it's phenomenal, right? And just hearing her story, it's amazing where she started. She was homeless, at one point in her life. Yeah. Going from there to be one of the most successful business coach in the business, and obviously what she did by accomplishing the Ironman. It's absolutely phenomenal, and it really resonates with people that, hey, if you really want it, you can do wonders.
Yeah. Let's take a quick look at some of Marianne's talk.
If you had one shot, one opportunity to seize everything you ever wanted in one moment, would you capture it or would you just let it slip? This is what we're here for today. The two police officers handed me a garbage bag and said, you have 15 minutes to pack your stuff. You don't actually live here anymore. That led to 1 year of being homeless. I lived on the streets. I slept on park benches. I slept wherever I could, actually. I showered at the YMCA. I just woke up one day and was like, that's it. I got to change. Something inside of me said, let's go. Ironmans. Swim, bike, run. I'm like, I don't swim, I don't bike, I don't run. Sounds like the perfect friggin' fit for me. I'm like, let's do this. We've been through several markets like this. We know that the last 13 years has been very good. So what does that do? Has created some weaknesses in your skills. Weak people create bad times. Guys, tariffs, recessions, all that stuff, I am so done with hearing that. I just want to get in and sell a shit ton of houses. Every single time we've had tariff wars or recessions, if you follow the pattern on the left-hand side, within 2 years, the prices go through the roof. Don't run out and show houses. Sit down and show them and say, guys, this is what we refer to as a window of opportunity. You can see the pattern. Every time a recession and tariff hits, boom, prices go down a bit. Sales get marginally impacted. So what we're going through is normal. What isn't normal? This is the key. There's one element that is happening right now that's never happened in the history of real estate on these charts. It's the one thing. All of these time frames, we've never had good interest rates. We can get a 5-year insured fix right now under 4%. I don't know. I mean, this is what I would call a hell of an opportunity. So show these to your clients. And when you are where you are today in today's market, I want you to remember something. What you're possible and capable of is far greater than you can imagine. But let go of that version that's holding you back, because it did really good up until now. But this is a new game, a new time, a new opportunity, and seize the shit out of it, because that moment is worth everything this year. And I wish the best for you. Keep me posted, and thank you for having me today.
So I think she certainly woke everybody in the room up with how she began. But that story, I guess it's a story of adversity and challenge and desperation, I guess, and then coming back from that. And I think that I imagine that there's a lot of people in the room who were in a position where they were kind of feeling up against the odds, and so to hear that, I think would have given a great motivation for someone who is, needing that extra boost, right?
John, I mean, it's no secret that people, have had a difficult time over the last few years, right? The economy hasn't helped. Interest rates haven't helped, right? And the fact that, deals are not falling out of the sky as they were, just during COVID, right?
Right.
So absolutely, there's a lot of people that are not as motivated as they used to be, right? Because when commission checks are not flowing, that motivation can quickly diminish.
Turns into discouragement, basically.
Absolutely, right?
Yeah.
And we've seen that. We've seen some people exit the industry. We've seen a lot of people find part-time jobs and so on and so forth, right? But this is why Marianne's talk was so inspirational. When she talks about how she had basically hit rock bottom, right? What did she do to kind of uplift herself and capture that, that glory that she's achieved? And that's what she was instilling in that audience.
Yeah.
And I think everyone could relate, right? And everyone could see it in themselves that if they really wanted what they have to do, right? And it's essentially things that we already know, right? It's going out there, it's prospecting, it's being consistent. And that's what she was instilling in everyone.
Yeah, and I think there's also like a certain element of, it's kind of humbling almost to see and hear that somebody can do that. And for me, certainly, I'm listening to that thinking, wow, if she's in that position and she can come out of it and get there, then like, what the hell do I have to complain about?
It's a mind shift.
Yeah.
Sorry, it's a mindset shift, right? That's all it is. And once you can completely shift that mindset, you can do a lot more.
Yeah.
Right. And that's the beauty of, being self-employed or beauty of, being a realtor or a mortgage agent. There's no ceiling to what you can do.
Yeah.
It's really, what you input equals your output.
So the motivational message, though, and the inspiring story was then followed with some practical tactics for application. And, one of the things that surprised me, and I'm not sure how many other realtors were really aware of this or whether this was surprising to them, was what she said about the interest rates. So like the economy and the market is, a situation that has occurred before, but what wasn't going on at those times was the low interest rates. And she talked about that being a huge opportunity, something that realtors can explain to their clients who are kind of hesitating and, are worried about, making a move right now. So what's your interpretation of that? And what is the opportunity that she was speaking about there?
I think from a broader perspective, right, I feel that any situation, be it a recessionary situation or be it something like, COVID where interest rates are super low, there's always going to be an opportunity. And if you can capitalize on that opportunity, you can do wonders.
Right.
Right. And I think that's what Marianne was highlighting. You can focus on the wrong things or you can focus on the right thing. And again, it goes back to mindset. Right. So what Marianne was pointing out, and I do agree with her, right? Even though we're seeing, tough times because of, the tariffs and U.S. trade policy and so on and so forth. But what's happening here, right? Where you have access to super low rates and the tariffs continue to give us super low rates. So if you're a buyer that's sitting on the sidelines, it's a massive opportunity for you. There's a lot of inventory on the market, which means that you could probably negotiate a pretty good price.
Right.
Now you combine that with super low interest rates that we haven't seen in the last few years, well, then that's a winning strategy for your client. And I think that's what Marianne was outlining to everyone, is that focus on the opportunities and not the risks,
right,
but the opportunities.
Right. And yeah, I think that was, throughout Marianne's and the other talks, it was about looking at what is within your control. What can you do? What what information, is available to you that you might not be aware of, or you might not understand the significance of? What tools or what strategies might give you the opportunity to succeed, rather than just thinking doom and gloom? The economy's crap, tariffs are coming in, buyers are hesitating, so therefore that's the reason why my business is not succeeding. Like you said, in any environment, there is always still deals that still go on. It's just who's going to actually get them. Absolutely, right? If your attitude is going to be exactly what you said, doom and gloom, then you might as well just stay at home and not even bother. And there are people that are doing that, right? They're not focusing on the activities because they're telling themselves that what's the point? Yeah. The economy's in the gutter. Interest rates are so on, right? And people are worried about the tariffs or whatever it is. Whatever you are telling yourself. The story that you are telling about why you're in that position. It's the narrative that you are basically, building for yourself, right? So it all goes back onto you and your frame of mind. Yeah, yeah. So then the next speaker, Matt Lionetti, he was a hoot. And, love Matt. And I think you told me actually that there was quite a few people who, when you were promoting the conference, when you were telling people about it, as soon as you said Matt's name, then they started to pay attention. Tell me more about that. Oh, absolutely. So when we started, sending out our invitations and telling people that we're, running this event, and obviously, we were telling them that we have our keynote speaker, a BMO economist, Shelly. She's phenomenal. We've got Marianne Gillespie. We've got this, fabulous panel with some of the biggest realtors in the GTA, and yada yada yada. Right, but everyone was, the feedback was, oh my God, Matt Lionetti's going to be there. Matt Lionetti's going to be there. So it just seems he's universally loved. We love him as well. That's why we asked him to be at our be at our event, and for good reason. You saw his talk. It was absolutely fantastic. It was very motivational. Everyone loved it, and it gave us something to really think about. Yeah, yeah, and again, considering that a lot of realtors are really struggling for a variety of different reasons, but marketing, actually connecting with clients, putting themselves out there in a way that is going to catch people's attention. I think that's more important than ever right now. And Matt has a really, really cool story. So let's take a look at some of what Matt said.
I remember my first time door knocking. Out comes this lady who I'd never seen before in my life. I don't know. She lives fucking 3 doors down from me. I was like, there's homes, and I'll sell your home high. And this was my first encounter ever with a stranger in this industry. She looked at me 3 doors down from where I've lived my entire life, looked at me head to toe and said, get the fuck off my property. I had these kind of like comedy-style videos from the moment I got into the industry, but my the very first like mentor I had told me I wasn't allowed to do it because no one would take me serious. I was already too young, and I shouldn't hinder myself more with like making a joke out of it. And this was kind of the first one that really took off for me. I thought it was really stupid. I almost didn't post it. All right, let's get this tour started.
Sure. Has anyone ever told you you look like Freddie Mercury?
No.
Are these hardwood floors?
Hold on, let me check. I got up the next morning from posting it, and Ryan Serhant, he was one of the big reasons I got into the industry. He commented on it, loved this. And then probably like 8-9 months down the road, this video actually got me about 5 or 6 million, I think it was 5 or 6 million in closings, all in the same month. And one of the clients I had were like these really high-powered lawyers, which I always think is so funny that they saw some maniac dressed up as Freddie Mercury, and they're like, that's our guy. Eventually, last year, I was like, okay, I need to make some type of pivot. This is the video that kind of was my pivot.
Hi,
oh, yeah, here we go.
My name is 47 Bennington Heights Drive, but you can call me Benny.
A little bit about Benny. We were up against a team that pretty much farms that entire area. They not only sell every listing, they usually double end them. We knew we needed to do something super, super different and out there. We threw our listing appointment away, and I went in with a storyboard and a script. But she saw the vision. She went with us. We listed it. We sold it in 4 days in multiple offers. It got $600,000 over the last comp from the week prior. And the person who bought it actually wrote our clients a love letter. And it said, we want to make the same memories that the family in the video made, and even referred to the home as Benny. And now that home is widely known as Benny, which is pretty cool. My superpower, more than anything, is just consistency and doing it fast. And anyone can do that if they want to, but you have to find the thing that makes you want to do it and be passionate about it, because it's easy to be consistent when you're passionate. When you have a great idea, everyone tells you not to do it. If you believe in it strong enough, fuck them. Thank you very much. I'm Matt Lionetti.
So apart from the fact that he had everybody laughing, it was very entertaining.
It was.
There was also like a lot of valuable insights and, again, actually a good mix of motivation, but then also tactics. I think that it's easy to, kind of feel like you are limited as to what you can do as a realtor because you've got, you've got your toolkit. But I think Matt's story really shows that by just thinking outside the box, and also, very importantly, persevering with an idea that you have and not being defeated if it doesn't work immediately. Like that's a really, really, really inspiring story, but one that you can actually take action on, I think.
Absolutely. He talked about how he faced rejection, in the beginning with his career, right? Mm-hmm. And I think it goes about, how he ended up discovering who he was, right? And how he was going to present himself, right? And he talked about being genuine, which I think is very important because I think everyone is trying to, make something out of them that they may not be, or putting out something that they may not be. But, let's just take a step back. Let's figure out who we are and let's put that out unfiltered.
Yeah.
And people will accept that. People will love it.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's also, it's a great way to connect with the people who are the right people for you, right? And I think that sometimes, and this is not just with real estate, it's with any, anything where you want to put yourself out there. It's easy to feel like you want to play it safe because you don't want to put people off. Right. And Matt said that, when he first started making those comedy videos, they said that a lot of people were telling him, like, this is, you shouldn't be doing this. Like, you're bringing disrepute to the industry. That wasn't how Matt put it. But, I think the fact that he persevered with it is going to mean that the people who he was never really meant to connect with and who, the type of clients who he doesn't really fit well with, they're not going to pay attention. They're going to say, who's that fool, right? But the people who actually are on his wavelength and who he is going to be able to provide a valuable service to, like they'll know that he is the realtor for them because he's putting himself out there in an authentic way.
100%, 100%. One of the most successful people in the industry that I personally know, he used to work for IBM and he was a data scientist at IBM. Made well over 6 figures, and he just got tired of it. And, through one day he decided to just quit his job and get into real estate because that's what he liked. Right? That's what he wanted to do. When he left his job, he didn't have enough money to kind of carry himself, so he sold his house, moved into the basement apartment of his parents while he was pursuing real estate. Everyone around him, told him he was crazy, right? He's left a 6-figure job, sold his house. He's living the Canadian dream. What is he doing? Has he gone crazy? And the people that were most critical of him were the people that were closest to him. It was his parents. It was his family and friends, right? But he had that vision. He kept doing what he was doing, and just 4 years later, he was one of the biggest producers at Remax in all of Canada.
Wow.
So it goes back to, what you said, right? Be authentic and pay attention to the people that are uplifting you, right? As opposed to keeping you down.
Yeah. And another really interesting and profound point that I found from Matt's talk is that You know, it's almost like adversity is it's a motivation in itself, right? And so like if he hadn't found the traditional way of going about doing business, door knocking and doing everything that, you know, his broker or the seminars were telling him, if he hadn't found that was ineffective, if he'd actually had some success, he probably would have just kind of, you know, coasted. And, you know, maybe he would have had some amount of success. But the fact that he was up against it and he needed, like out of necessity, to find a different way forward, like that's what's allowed him to create the platform and the business model, I guess you'd say, that he's created now. But without that adversity, that wouldn't have happened. And again, the same with Marianne's talk. So I think that's a really clear message to anyone who, it's almost like if you feel so up against it that you don't, you feel like it's a terrible, dire situation, it's almost like that's a gift. Because that necessitates you to find a different way forward. And Matt certainly did that.
Yeah, that's a very good point. You know, how do you create diamonds, John?
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, there has to be that torque, that pressure, right?
Yeah.
And through adversity, you're right. You know, if you're able to persevere and if you're able to, just put your head down and go for the goal, great things will come out of it.
Yeah. So then the next segment was the paddle. And, while the panel were discussing, you look around the room and everybody is just,
glued in,
fixated because there was so many gems that came out of it. So let's take a quick look at some of those gems from the panel.
If right now you had to make $100,000 in a month, which you can do, I would do an open house every single day. I would do 30 open houses this month. You're going to meet a ton of people. Hone up on your skills, and 100% you should meet enough people where you're going to make 100,000.
Okay, but I think this is the challenge, is that a confused mind is always going to say no. And right now there is just so much noise out there in the media. It's the first, second, third, and fourth news story every time you turn on any media outlet. It's being constantly fed to us through social media feeds. And the challenge with that is that, in the absence of true leadership of your clients are going to listen to anybody that's talking. And so you can't expect to show up and be able to confidently, coach them through what is the largest financial transaction of their life if you have not already done your homework in terms of being able to interpret the data. So I think it's really just important to continue to educate ourselves. And that's why it's so important to come to events like this.
And for those of you that think AI is going to level the playing field, it's not. AI is more of an amplifier. So if you're a 2 now and you're using AI, you'll be a 4. But if you're already an 8, you'll be a 16. So for those of you that are in the room looking at AI thinking that, okay, this is going to level the playing field, it's not. The people that are already very good at what they do are going to become way better at what they do. And so you have to keep adapting.
I mean, I think it's important people know there's no magic pill. I mean, the quick short answer, spend $200 on lead gen, you'll make $100. You're already as good as your weakest link. You can do 30 open houses without question, but if you're shit at doing open houses, you won't have anybody. If people don't like you, you don't like that. Be passionate about what you do. Understand how to interrupt the pattern when people are coming through those open houses. And whatever you're going to do to produce meeting people, be passionate about it. Understand that until you interact and create a relationship with someone, there's no chance of them wanting to work with you. So get good at that and then tighten up all the other steps so you don't drop them through the hole, because again, you're only as good as your weakest link.
I feel like sometimes we just give up so easy, right? Like we hit failure and we just give up so easy. Rory McIlroy, what he shared on television yesterday is the first hole he hit a double bogey, right? And golf is like 90% mental. And I feel like it's the same thing with real estate, right? Like this is, the industry doesn't understand the business we're in. Like this is a high producing business. So you see someone like that on television who hits a double bogey, that could have easily just completely ruined his day. But he won the Masters yesterday, right? So I'd say if you have an idea, like Matt said, he just goes for it, right? It's okay to hit failure sometimes on that, right? Like learn from that. Get back up the next day. There's so much opportunity in this business. Right? Like all you guys are all within the same area. There's so much opportunity out there. So just don't let your own thoughts hold you back. Don't let failure hold you back and just go for it.
I don't know how on earth you managed to assemble such a fantastic panel, Omair, but like the way that the topics, kind of, and the discussion about those topics unfolded, it seemed very organic, although there were questions prepared. And there were a couple of very, very clear threads that I took away from it. One was that, especially right now with all of the uncertainty and confusion, with homeowners and home buyers and home sellers, you have to be the leader. You have to equip yourself with the information, but you then have to, you have to put yourself forward to your clients as the expert, because what was it that Carol said? The confused.
Well, you're absolutely right? Carol said, a confused mind will always say no. Right. So you always have to be leveling up. This is why events like Vision 2025 are so important, right? Because when you're your client's champion and you're the expert that they're looking up to,
that they trust,
right?
Yeah.
You need to have all the facts straight, right? So you need to be constantly learning. There's a lot of white noise out there, right? Like we were talking about, all the stuff that's available on TikTok and social media, right?
Yeah.
But it's nonsense. So when you're going to events like this, you have the knowledge, you have the facts, and when you are presenting them to your clients, then you're leading them towards something, right?
Yeah.
And you're showing them the opportunities that are out there.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of integrity in that when it comes to being a salesperson, right? Because, Realtor's the real estate salesperson. And, I think Matt at one point said in his talk that, someone said to him, hey, you're giving Realtors a bad name. And he said, I don't know whether you know this, but Realtors don't have a very good name, right? And so, there is that stereotype of the realtor who will just tell the client anything they want to hear to get the deal done. But, what we're talking about here is the opposite to that, right? It's bringing the information and presenting it in a way that the client will be able to understand how it relates to their situation and how they can then use that to make a good decision. Because the confused mind always says no. I'm sure in a lot of cases, or maybe most cases, clients being so hesitant that they don't move forward, that's not the right thing for them. They're probably going to find themselves in a worse situation. But to actually bring the relevant information to your client and guide them as the expert, like that's the best thing you could possibly do for the best interest of the client.
Absolutely. Right? At the end of the day, right? When a client is coming to you, they're coming with some sort of challenge, right? It could be that, they need to invest in something, or maybe they just need housing because the formation of their family is changing, right? Whatever it is, right? But you as the expert, if you're not providing them value other than just sending them listings on House Sigma, right? Then what's the point?
Yeah,
right? They could do that themselves.
They can do that themselves, and that's, I think, one of the things that has been shifting for many, many years now is the fact that real estate and the role of the real estate agent, the real estate professional, is not like it used to be because the information is already available there. And 100%. One of the things that Ricky said, actually, it's kind of, I think, plays into that and will continue to play into it, is the role of AI, right? Because, there's Ricky said that, like, if you think that AI is going to level the playing field, right? It's understandable how somebody might think that. It's like, well, the information is available to everyone now, so we're all on the same page. Whereas that's actually not what's going on. So Ricky's point was really interesting about that. Like, it's going to, however good you are right now, AI is going to amplify it. And so it's the opposite of leveling the playing field.
I think I 100% agree with him, right? So we get this a lot. And, agents ask me all the time, right? Is our job going to be redundant because of AI, right? Because AI will be able to adjudicate a mortgage file or whatever it is, right? And my answer to them always is the same, right? That no, your job will not be redundant, right? Your job will be redundant if you don't know how to use AI.
Right.
Right? But if you are able to use AI and you're able to amplify your business, then you are going to be even more successful. I can do tasks with AI that used to take me 2 hours, I can do in 30 seconds now. It's added so much to my business. Same thing with realtors, right? You have to adapt the technology and it will amplify. Just like Ricky said, it will amplify you. You know, if you were 10 before, you're going to be at 20.
Right.
It's phenomenal.
And with the ability to perform so efficiently some of those time-consuming tasks, it kind of frees up that time
and
so that you
prospect.
can provide even more value. And whether it's prospecting, whether it's spending time with the clients that you're working with, rather than crunching the numbers or doing whatever it is that you're using AI to do. So that was great. Dan, some of what he said I felt was really good because he's obviously very much an industry veteran. He spoke a lot about relationships and about the importance of relationships and how that is still what the transaction and
it's a people's business, John.
It is a people business,
right? It's a people business. If you're not relating to your clients, if you're not keeping up with your clients, you will have no business. Plain and simple, right? The most successful agents, be it mortgage, be it real estate, are the ones that are creating that relationship. And it's a proper relationship. It's not transactional. It's not like, you're going to buy your house and then you're never going to hear from us. No, that's not how it works, right? You have to build and foster these relationships. I know realtors that help people get into, a rental apartment years ago. And, 6 years later, they're doing, a purchase transaction for that same family, but it's because they kept in contact.
They kept the relationship strong.
They kept the relationship strong, right? So that is absolutely the most important thing.
Yeah. But Dan made a good caveat as well, which is that you focus on what you're good at in terms of creating those relationships and maintaining them, but you also have to have good systems behind you. Because, you could be the very best person when it comes to creating those relationships. But then if you're not able to actually follow all of the things that need to happen in order to serve that client, then, it doesn't matter how good you are at the first part. So again, a lot of practical,
there was a lot of talk,
actionable steps.
There was a lot of talk about, how to delegate properly, right? And at what point should you be introducing maybe an assistant or maybe team members, right? So I think they go hand in hand with having the right systems and technology. We're blessed with the amount of technology that's available to us, right?
Yeah.
Years ago, when I started, we used to use fax machines, right?
Are you really that old?
That was 2008, right? I started mortgages in 2008, and we used to use fax. Well, banks are always a little bit behind adapting technology, right? But the reality is that we're so blessed in this age, right? We have CRM systems that will do follow-up for you while you're sleeping, right? So if you're not adapting to the CRM systems that are out there, if you're not adapting to the mindset of having an additional body, maybe that's an assistant or maybe that's a member of your staff that's doing client outreach or whatever it is, right? But there are other people that you can bring on and that will help you foster these relationships so you continue doing what you're good at.
Right.
And that's what really stood out to me in the panel, because I used to think the same way, right? There was a moment in my time when I was a mortgage agent and I was producing at a high level, it was like, do I get an assistant at this point?
Yeah.
Right? Or
Could
not?
they actually do the things that I am doing, or does it have to be all me?
That's the Kool-Aid that you actually drink yourself. You feed it to yourself, and that Kool-Aid is, I'm the only one that can do this job.
Yeah, I actually came to a realization, some years ago when I caught myself thinking like that. I can't trust delegating this to another person because I have to be the one to do it. The realization I came to is that that's a bloody arrogant way of thinking.
Yeah.
Like, am I actually the best person?
You're not.
No.
Right? And the reality is, for me, it was very different. It really hit me when I started realizing that I was stretching myself too thin, right? It was getting impossible for me to be able to handle, the client outreach, the servicing, the sales.
To keep up the level of service.
It gets really difficult at a certain point, right? And the reality is that I should have been delegating a lot sooner. And once I did start delegating and I, brought on more people on the team, it was a hallelujah moment. It was like, oh my God, this should have been done a lot sooner. And I think that's what the panel, that's what they talked about as well. If you're doing a certain number of transactions, you can't afford to have an assistant.
Right. Yeah. So again, another combination of tactics. Like you said, it's the experience of peers who realtors can relate to. But then just also a lot of mindset, motivation, and kind of almost like accountability. Like
action items.
This opportunity is there. This is what you need to do. It's now up to you to go and do it.
Absolutely. Just like we said, there's going to be 70,000 transactions out there, in TREB this year. Are you the one who's doing it? Someone else.
Yeah. So then after the panel, I got up and gave my quick talk, and I just want to kind of just briefly summarize what that was all about. And I was quite pleased that it did seem to feed into what a lot of the other parts of the conference was speaking about, like Matt Lionetti, Dan Plowman spoke a lot about being relatable to your clients and putting yourself in their shoes. So let's have a quick look at my talk. I'm going to speak to you about a problem, right? And I'm going to say that almost everybody in here has this problem. And the problem is that most people don't know what makes you different from other realtors. It's not by talking about yourself. Why would talking about yourself not be a good idea? Anyone? Because nobody's interested. They don't care about you. What you got to do is to get really clear on these three things, right? Number one, your ideal client's biggest problem, right? Number two, what you do to solve that problem. Not who you are, not how long you've been in real estate, not the reason that you were inspired to get into real estate because your father was a real estate agent and blah, blah, blah. It's what you do to solve that problem. And then number three, the amazing result that they achieve. You got to paint a picture for them of that. So when you tie these three things together, you are going to have a very powerful statement, right? And here's what you do with it. You can use it in your social media content, in conversation, right? At your listing presentations, at your networking events. It's not rocket science. This is actually this is the fundamentals of sales and marketing. This is not some new faddish sales technique or anything. It's human psychology. Check the About Me section of your website and imagine that you're a client, a potential client. Would the About Me section on your website instantly show that you are the realtor for them, that you know their problem, you are equipped to solve it, and you're going to take them to the destination that they want to get to?
So that was fantastic, John. And you know what? Like you said, it ties in very closely to what Matt Lionetti was talking about, right? Yeah. It's about building that authentic brand. And there's so many agents, the room was packed with realtors who are all thinking the exact same thing. There are thousands of us, and how do we stand out?
Right.
How do we stand out from everyone else? And I think the way you kind of framed it, it blew at least my mind away. I know a lot of people were in awe, and I'm sure you've been getting a lot of calls about it. Why don't you give us your take?
Well, I appreciate that, and it surprised me actually how many people came up to me at the conference after I did that talk, and we had those little workbooks that I was encouraging people to actually do this on the spot, create that message about what makes you different from other realtors, so that you can articulate that to clients. And there was a ton of people came up to me at the end and said, "Hey, this is what I've got. Can you review it?" Right, and so I think that. It's another, I think, another symptom or, maybe consequence of there being such confusion in the market, such uncertainty and such struggle. Sometimes people lose sight of the fundamentals. And when it comes to marketing, the fundamentals are that you are solving a problem. Like that, every business that exists only exists because it solves a problem.
The simplicity of it is beautiful.
Yeah.
Right?
But it often is is overlooked. And people just think that I just need to talk about myself. It's almost like I need to justify the reason why they should hire me. Whereas go back to Sales and Marketing 101. What problem do you solve? How do you solve it? And what's going to happen for your client, once you've done that?
It's genius. It's genius, right? Because you're right. The default way that everyone kind of approaches it is, this is who I am.
Right.
This is what I do, right? Here is my resume. Here's my resume,
Yeah.
right? I've been doing this for, 50 years, right? I am the top X in X company, right? But you're right. When you hear that from 100 different people, you lose sight of it.
It all becomes so generic.
It all becomes generic.
Yeah.
Right? At the end of the day, nobody cares about, what awards I've won.
Yeah.
If I was the chairman or X award of, whatever mortgage company, right?
Yeah.
What they care about is, what's my mortgage payment going to be tomorrow?
What can you do for them?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So the simplicity of the message is absolutely mind-boggling, because once you understand it, it's really hard to look back and seeing how you were doing it before. It's like, what was I doing?
Yeah, it is almost counterintuitive. It's like it's so simple that we don't see it, and we try to look for other ways to get people's attention and to demonstrate that that we are able to or that we should be a good fit for them. So that was a real kind of joy and a privilege for me to stand up, and I appreciate everybody who engaged with me on that. So then the next person who got up and said a few words was you. So let's just have a quick look at what you said.
We're just like you. We get paid on completion. We don't get paid until a deal is funded. Just like you guys, we know the hustle. We know what it takes. We know what it takes to be successful. So if you're working with a mortgage agent that's not part of the 6 Mortgage Group or the lending suite, you got to give us a call. If your mortgage agent is not returning your calls, you got to give us a call. If your mortgage agent is not up at night at 11 o'clock or 12 o'clock working deals with you, figuring out things, you got to give us a call. If your mortgage agents are not inviting you to events where you can level up, you got to give us a call. This is what we do. We've built these partnerships with so many people here in this room. They are responsible for the success that we have. And when I say success, I really mean it. Mike Dier is in this room somewhere, and he'll tell you last year, 2024, 6 Mortgage Group Lending Suite, we were the #1 office for volume funded in Central Canada. That's because everyone in this room values partnership. We're in a people business. That's what we're in. We work with you guys to get things done. And that's my end. That's the close on my sales pitch.
So interestingly, it was a sales pitch.
It was a sales pitch.
But it was very sincere as well. And you did, what we were just discussing, actually, you did give a little bit of your resume, right? But you focused on the problems that realtors are facing right now that you can actually solve and that you authentically solve. It's not like a trying to kind of manipulate or persuade people based on a falsehood. You seem very sincere about that. So like just tell me a little bit about why you are so passionate about doing that rather than just trying to make some dollars.
Hey, John, the reality is that, it goes back to why we did this event, right? We did this event because we are giving back to a community of professionals that we've built our business on. And we've had tremendous success. I talked about that in my speech as well. We were #1 in volume funded in all of Central Canada.
That's crazy.
It is crazy, right? But it's because of our partners. It is because of all the realtors, from the Remaxes, the Kellers, the Royal LePages, the Century 21s, all of the agents that put their trust in us. When they send us a client, they trust that client is going to be taken care of, right? And it's because of them. So that's what I wanted to kind of put out there and thank everyone for the success that they've given us. And at the same time, there are a lot of people in that audience that maybe they haven't worked with the 6 Mortgage Group.
Right.
Right? And they should.
Yeah.
They should work with the 6 Mortgage Group.
And maybe they are experiencing those problems. They're not able to get a quick response. They're not able to, kind of feel confident that everything that is, within the realm of possibility is being done because, stakes are high, right? And they need to ensure that they're exhausting all options. And it sounds like you really do that.
Especially in this market, right? Where, speed to lead is very important. Right? If you have a client, you need that situation looked at. You have to rely on someone that has a team of successful agents that can really turn around that lead quickly and do a good job of it. Right? Yeah. So that's what we were trying to put out. And, I wanted to be very candid. We're in a room full of salespeople. So I'm sure they can appreciate the fact that a sales pitch is being made.
It's a sales pitch, but also in a room full of salespeople, they can smell bullshit, and so
absolutely.
I think the authentic way that you presented that was great. So good for you, man.
Appreciate that.
Yeah. So then after that, there was the concluding talk of the day, which was Shelly, and I have to say that most of Shelly's talk just went completely over my head. Yeah, there were a lot of things that were spoken about that I had no idea of, and so I feel like even though a lot of it went over my head, I feel much more informed about what is going on with the economy. So yeah, let's take a quick look at what some of what Shelly said.
Okay, so this is what we've been waiting for. Because the market is crazy right now. People have a lot of questions. This is really one of the main reasons we wanted to do this. We're getting a lot of calls from our partners, from our agents, from our friends, wondering what the hell's going on with the economy, right? Bond yields are up one day, then they're down the other, right? Trade wars are like kicking in and then they're going away the next day. Nobody knows what's going on, but we have someone who can tell you, right? And that's Shelly Kaushik from BMO Bank of Montreal.
This graph here is just the average tariff rate imposed from the United States just over time. And you can see that we estimate that the tariff rate is actually at the highest that it's been in about a century. What the US administration is trying to do right now is they're trying to bring a lot of that manufacturing that went outsourced over the last few decades back to the United States. But what we have seen so far is that the job market has deteriorated much more in Ontario, and specifically the GTA, than it has over the rest of the country. Again, that affordability picture remains a challenge, but we do think that there are still some pent-up buyers still waiting for rates to keep falling. Some of that demographic, boost is still there. There's still a lot of millennials out there who are looking to potentially upsize, start a family, things like that. So there is some demand on the sidelines. There is some opportunity here. But again, it's going to take some time. And one way to look at that affordability picture is really what we think is constraining a lot of buyers right now, especially in Southern Ontario. So we can see that affordability, there's a lot of ways to measure affordability. This is one of them. It's just literally the share of your mortgage payment to your household income. Affordability peaked, or unaffordability peaked, I should say, at over 50%. So that means mortgage rates mortgage payments were more than half of a household's income at its worst. And so that's pretty much the worst we've seen in about a generation since the late 80s. And it has come down a little bit, not just because rates are starting to come down, but also because incomes were keeping up. So again, remember, the labor market was historically tight, incomes were still keeping up, income growth was still higher than average. And so again, that took some pressure off of household budgets and took some pressure off of those affordability calculations. And we do think it's going to improve a little bit going forward because, again, rates are falling. That's going to help. But that income side of the ledger is likely kind of losing some steam here as, again, we start looking at a potential recession. So you can see how, again, what goes on with tariffs is going to impact every single thing in the economy, especially and including the housing market, and especially in Ontario.
So, Omair, as someone in the finance industry, what were your kind of key takeaways from what Shelly spoke about?
Shelly's phenomenal. I absolutely love watching her present, and the data is on point. The challenge with economists and economists presenting charts and data is always the fact that it can be very complicated, right? It's also very dry, right? So I think Shelly did a very good job of putting the information out there that everyone can kind of relate to, right? Next time maybe I can have a translator next to the Economist. So when she does her 10 minutes of talking point, the translator can be like, we're fucked.
To interpret it as to what it means for us today in this industry.
In this industry, right?
Yeah.
But I think what Shelly really did a great job of outlining was that there's a lot of opportunity in this environment, right? She talked about tariffs, she talked about interest rates, she talked about things that are very relevant in this economy. But for an economist to highlight the opportunities that can still come out from a time like this, it's very important. And that's what you need to be watching. So when you're sitting in front of your client and they're talking about, oh my God, tariffs are coming, maybe it's not the right time to buy. Well, have you thought about this? Right? And this is how you can control that narrative and give them insight that's coming from a professional economist from a bank.
Right, yeah. And it's taking that leadership role with the service that you're providing to the client as well. So being informed not only for your own sense of kind of what is the best move here, but so that you can actually communicate that in a way that your client will understand. And that's I say a lot of it went over my head, and it did, but I did appreciate how Shelly regularly said phrases like, so what this means is that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. And she did kind of bring it down to that practical level, whether she was talking about, the affordability, point, that was something that made real sense to me, in my layman's understanding. There were quite a few other little moments where for me it was like, oh, right, okay, now I'm starting to get it at least. Right. And so that was, to finish off the conference, with that, let's say download of data, where people are already feeling inspired and motivated and looking to see what they can now take back to their day-to-day and their clients. That was a great way to end it.
You have to be real, right? And that's the reality. You have to be real with everyone. You have to be genuine. And if we are experiencing something in the market, let's talk about it, right? And that's what Shelly did. And the reality is that, just like Marianne said, every type of environment will have its own unique opportunities.
Yeah.
Can you highlight them? If you can, you'll be successful. You'll be very successful.
Yeah. If you can't highlight them or you can't see them, then all you're going to see are the obstacles, the difficulties. And so I guess that was the message of Vision 2025. There are opportunities, there are, ways that you can take control of certain things that are going to then influence whether you are successful for yourself as a realtor, whether you can, create success for your clients. Don't just let it all come to you and think that, you've got to, just kind of take it. There are actions that you can take.
100%, right? Like deals are not going to be falling out of the sky. This year may be a tough year. It may be the toughest year. You may have to work harder than you've ever worked before to make the same money that you did before, right? That's the reality. We know that. We're not shying away from that. But what we do know is if you're going to work hard, if you're going to be out there, if you're going to be hitting the pavement, right? If you're going to be, hitting the social medias, the door knocking, the phone calls, whatever it is that you choose to do, if you're going to do it consistently, and if you do it well, you will see results.
Right. And, one of the things that I think is relevant as well, just taking it back to some of the other points that were spoken about, if you can do it in this market,
you can do it in any market.
You can do it in any market. And so, I don't remember exactly whether it was Marianne, but I think Marianne said something about how, if you can, so if she was talking about when she was training for Ironman.
Yeah.
And she was 300 pounds.
Everyone said you can't do it.
Everyone said you can't do it. She did it. But then once she actually started to lose the weight, suddenly everything was so much easier. And so, if through the strategies that were presented here and through the various different unique skills that each realtor has, if you can succeed in this market, just think about what success you'll see when things, because they always do, the pendulum swings and we come back into, I don't know, for lack of a better term, an easier market.
Yeah.
Who's going to be, who's going to be achieving the massive success there? It's those that already have that momentum and have started training for an Ironman at 300 pounds, right?
It's absolutely insane.
Yeah.
Right? And so motivating, right? And watching her do what she's accomplished, wow.
Yeah. So, what other takeaways or what other feedback could you share since the end of the conference? What were some of the things that people are actually doing as a result of attending the conference? Have you had any of that yet?
Yeah, I've heard a lot of people have signed up with coaching for Marianne. Right, which they absolutely should. She's phenomenal. We received tremendous feedback on the panel. And I think next year, we're going to try to make it even more interactive. I think that would be cool. And from a networking side, everyone really enjoyed, talking to all the vendors out there, all the professionals out there that are partners of ours, right? And everyone in that room, they're all partners. And people loved interacting with them. Next year, we'll do a little bit more of a highlight on the networking.
Right.
But yeah, overall, it was a very positive feedback from everyone so far.
So what's next then? The conference is done. People are motivated. Obviously, presumably you're going to do it again next year. But like, what's next for Vision in
That's
your
a great
eyes?
question. Yeah, obviously Vision 2026 is next, right? And that's next year. We're going to make it a much bigger event. It's going to be phenomenal. But we're not there yet. And Vision 2025 is not over yet. Right? Vision 2025 doesn't end with the event that we did, right? We will continue doing more seminars, more workshops throughout the year. So everyone who's watching this, you'll probably get more invites as we move on throughout the year. And it'll be different learning opportunities that you'll get. But we'll give you a lot of chances to level up.
Right. So kind of building on the foundation that was set from the conference and keeping it going. Sounds like
Absolutely.
Sounds like it's what's needed in at this point in time. And so I'm sure that people are going to be excited to see what's next. So I guess check your emails, check social media, and make the most of it, because you're offering it. You're offering it for free.
Absolutely.
I guess
and give us feedback. If you're not liking something, or if you want to see something specific, tell us. We will make it happen as long as we can.
Yeah. Well, thanks for taking this time to review the conference, and I just want to say thanks on behalf of everyone who attended, because I thought it was a phenomenal event, and
thank you, John.
And so many people were had such good things to say about it, and so thanks for persevering with the effort and the work to put this all together.
It was a lot of fun, actually. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
But thanks for having me on this podcast. I think this whole thing that you've done is super cool. And am I the first mortgage professional on this?
You are the first mortgage professional.
So I get to claim this.
Exactly.
This is going to be on my LinkedIn bio now.
Yeah,
right?
And we're just trying to bring value to realtors, and
I
a
love
lot
it.
of that is the peer experiences and tips and stuff like that. But always interesting to hear from other professionals in the industry. So and on that note, Omair, what would you say? What are some pearls of wisdom that you, as a mortgage broker who sees the real estate market from a different perspective,
Sure.
What do you think is the most important things that realtors should be focusing on, as they continue in 2025?
I think getting in front of people, it's the most important thing, and it's more important than ever before. Right? And if you can get in front of people, maybe it's over video, maybe it's doing seminars, maybe it's doing first-time homebuyer seminars and things like that. And you can partner up with us. You can partner up with your mortgage broker. If it's not us, do it with your mortgage broker.
Right.
Get on video, talk about the market, give your clients actual value, let them know what's happening around them
Right.
and how you can help. Right? And if it's doing seminars, or if it's doing open houses, you don't have to do it alone.
Yeah.
Real estate and mortgages can be a very lonely business if you try to do it by yourself, do it alone.
Right.
You don't have to. Partner with us or partner with your mortgage broker, get in front of people, you will see success.
Yeah, and I think, you know, I'm sure it's the same in other industries, but I think in real estate, there is definitely a desire to collaborate with a lot of people in the industry. And so, you know, if you can figure out something that's mutually beneficial, then, you know, then everyone wins. The client wins as well, because they're going to get better information, better, you know, kind of insights. And so,
get on John's podcast right now. If you're a realtor and you're performing in, you know, any of the key GTA cities, make sure you contact John. Get on his podcast.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah,
It's true.
and yeah, contact me at the information below.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks very much, Omair, and I look forward to seeing how we kind of carry this momentum forward from Vision 2025, and you know, and based on from 24 to 25. I can't imagine what Vision 2026 is going to be looking like. I'm excited.
It's going to be great. Are you going to be at Vision 2026?